Hi guys! I created this series of videos which I'm gonna put into one playlist to answer precisely the most specific of your questions. In this video I'm gonna answer all the questions that you have posted below the previous video, which I'm gonna link right here. If after watching this video you're gonna have some more questions, some follow-up questions, or if you're new to this channel and you simply have questions about moving to Switzerland, about living here and working here, please do post them under this video. I will answer them in the next video of this series. But before we start, I have two announcements. First of all, very soon on December 6th, I'm gonna be celebrating the first anniversary of me posting a video on this channel. Looking back, I think we've built a little bit of a community, which makes me very happy. And to celebrate the first anniversary, I'm creating a live stream that's gonna be on December 6th, 1900 hours Central European time. Please join me. We're gonna have a live stream on YouTube. I'm gonna make the traditional Swiss fondue, and while making it, I'll answer any questions you might have about living in Switzerland, about this channel, about me, whatever you want to know. So December 6th, 1900 hours Central European time, we're gonna have a live stream on YouTube to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of this channel. Second, I've also created a private Facebook group for all of you guys which have been watching this channel and have already moved to Switzerland. There is an increasing group of people who have been watching this channel since some time. Now they have managed to move. Oh, that's great. So I created this group. You already have something in common. For some reason you chose to spend your time watching my videos. You came here from another country. So on this group, once the lockdown is over, we can organize some live meetings. In the meanwhile, you can get to know some people who are here in the same situation as you, and you can make some new nice connections. That's it for the announcements. Let's dive into your questions. The first one, hey Nico, can I go to Switzerland to work in summer holidays? Is it easy? Do you know anyone who has done it? Well, I know it's possible to do it in many other European countries which are part of the European Union, like the Netherlands or Germany. People go there for summer vacations, let's say to be a waiter. To be honest, I don't know any people who did this here. The main reason is that it's a little bit more complicated to stay here than in most countries in the EU. So to work here you have to have a work permit. You have to have a place to live. If you're looking for a country just for 2-3 months to find a job to make some extra money, I would say Switzerland is probably not your best choice. I would try Netherlands or Germany. As a student you can make decent money there. The cost of living was much lower. I hope it answers your question. If it doesn't, please let me know in the description below. The second one, hi Miko, which area do you live in? I'm moving there short. It would be good to get an idea of which neighborhoods are more or less desirable, expensive, etc. That's a really good question. That's something I was wondering about myself when I was moving here. So most of my friends live in neighborhoods like Paquis, Oviv, Rive, and that's the city center, the old town, Carouge or Champel. All of those neighborhoods has their own little flavor. So I myself live in Paquis. I love it here because unlike the, let's say, essence of Geneva, it's very lively. There is an open restaurant almost around the clock. There's a lot of stuff happening. The downside is it also has a red light district. So if you're really like kind of touched on this kind of stuff, then it's probably not the place for you. For an apartment of like 50 or 60 meters, you're gonna pay something between 2,000 and 2,300. And this is a neighborhood which is basically just by the lake and within walking distance of the city center, so like maybe 10-15 minutes to the old town. Then Oviv, which is on the other side of the lake, is also a great neighborhood. It has a lot of hip bars, restaurants and clubs. I really like this neighborhood, and actually we've been talking with my wife, if we would ever move, we would move there. It doesn't have the red light district vibe. The pricing is also similar. For a 50-60 meter apartment, you'd pay 2,000, 2,400 there. Another option is Champel. So Champel is, let's say, the essence of Geneva, meaning it's very quiet. There's a lot of embassies and consulates there, and it has this kind of vibe. Let's say kind of old money, big apartments. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's very, very, very slow and, let's say, calm. In the evenings you're probably not even gonna see a living soul on the street, and if you want to get to the city center you will have to either take transportation or like walk for around 20 minutes. It's great if you have families and kids. There's parks and there's playgrounds, so it has a lot of benefits kind of looking at it from a family perspective. It's a little bit also more expensive, so if we're looking at an apartment 50, 60, 70 meters, that will be something like 2.5, 2.7, but you can also get a studio for 1.6, that's also possible. Carouge is also a great neighborhood to live in. It's let's say a little Italian town within Geneva, a little bit further from the city center, on the left bank as well. It has this kind of artisanal, little bit of an Italian vibe. The houses are much lower, and it has a very cute vibe to it. An apartment 50 to 70 meters is also going to be something like 2.2, 2.7. To be honest, it's a really picturesque and beautiful neighborhood to live in. I really like it, but for me it's a little bit too far from the city center. One area which I didn't mention yet is Plein Palais. It's basically a big square a little bit behind the city center and the old town. It's a great location because it's really central, it's really close. There's some museums and galleries in the vicinity, and quite a lot of nice restaurants and bars. So that's also a nice option. Around 50-meter apartment should be probably around 1.9 to 2.2 thousand. It is also possible to move completely outside of the city, for example Warsaw. So you'll have to commute every day. If that's an option for you, this is going to be a little bit cheaper, but this is really outside of the city already. I hope it answers your question. Let's move on to the next one. Hi Miko, I have a question. I'm a Swiss citizen, but raised in Dominican Republic. I have never studied there. I would like to know, if I decide to come back, can I bring my title there from university? I forgot Swiss, only talk English and Italian, some suggestions. So as a Swiss citizen, it should be quite easy for you because you don't have to really struggle for a permit. And if you're here talking English and Italian, I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to find a job. You won't have the burden of the time running out to fix the permit. So that's a little bit of a more comfortable situation. Not knowing German or French might make it more difficult. Maybe you can try in the Italian part of Switzerland, around Ticino, Lugano, because they speak Italian there. So I think this will be the easiest option for you. And I wish you best of luck. Well, let's move to the next question. Wow, this is a big comment. Let's jump right in. So I lived in Italy in 2013 in Rome on an exchange semester that was roughly 6, 7, 8 months, something like this. It was a fantastic experience. I was really young, 22 at the time. It was a great experience because I got to kind of live there and not be there as a tourist, explore the city from a different perspective. After living there for those couple of months, Rome is always very close to my heart. I try to go there as often as I can. I've actually been there with my wife this summer holidays. So we've been to Bologna for 1 day, to Rome for 6 days, to Florence, where you're from. Congratulations, Florence is a fantastic town, for 2 days. And then we're hanging out around Tuscany. And Rome, my favorite neighborhood is Trastevere by far. My wife, when we went there now, we tried to wander off the beaten path to find restaurants where the locals eat. I love Italy for their approach to life, for the great cuisine. I love the language. I love how great their hospitality is. I also love the Italian design and fashion. I think that's the country that on a global scale has the nicest sense of taste, and I love that about Italy because it's also quite important to me. And yes, I would definitely love to make some videos about the Italian part of Switzerland. It is absolutely beautiful. As for the pros and cons, thus far I've lived in Poland, which is my home country, Netherlands, Italy, then Netherlands again, Poland, and now Switzerland. Every of those countries was quite different. I have great sentiment for the Netherlands because it's the country where I lived the longest thus far. It's at the end a Germanic country, so it's really well organized. I like it because the people are quite chill and relaxed. The salaries are good and the cost of living is not that bad. What is a big downside for me of the Netherlands is the climate, which is really, really bad. Then I moved to Italy, which I absolutely loved. But keep in mind that I was there on an exchange, so I didn't really have that many, let's say, obligations. It was more of a chill period of my life. I love Italy, I love the Italian people, but what bothers me a little bit is, for example, in Rome, there is not a schedule for trams or buses. So, you know, sometimes the tram would arrive after 5 minutes, sometimes the tram would arrive after 1.5 hours, and there would be 4 trams of the same number, one after another. It's fine if you're a student, it's fine if you're a tourist or if you're not in a hurry, but if you're trying to have like a very kind of tight schedule, it's not really doable in Rome, and this is one of the downsides of the city for me. I guess maybe if I would retire, I would love to go there to retire. because then you can just relax, and Italy is great for that. But if you're really in a hurry, the traffic is a little bit messy, and so that's a little bit of a downside of Italy. But don't get me wrong, I still love the country, absolutely. What I really like about Switzerland is that it's beautiful. I mean, the landscapes, you know, you have the lakes and you have the mountains. So, and the Italian part looks quite like Italy, but at the same time, it's super organized, which I really, really appreciate. And it's the order is fantastic here, so I really like that. I haven't spoken about Poland actually on this channel at all, even though I'm Polish myself. There's a lot of things, especially now politically, that is happening in Poland I'm not really happy about, but I guess I made my most clear vote on the political situation in Poland that I could have. I simply left, and I think that's all I'm gonna say about that topic. But what I really appreciate about Poland the most is that people in Poland, but also in the East, in Ukraine for example as well, they really have the hunger for success still. It's not a fulfilled society. They have the hunger to do more. They hustle, they really try hard, they work 7 days a week, they work longer hours. I think the work ethics and the regime in Eastern Europe is actually very impressive. It comes from the fact that the people still did not achieve the same kind of welfare level as in Western Europe. So they're really going to try for $100, they're really going to try for $1,000. The experience in restaurants is really good, the service. So what you're going to get for a dollar of your money is going to be a much more eager service. So that's what I really appreciate. Just to see that just in '89 we converted to capitalism, the step that was made by this country is actually quite astounding. So I recommend to visit Poland if you haven't been. Let's jump into the next one. Miko, Switzerland's tourist economy was hit hard like many other countries because of those pandemic travel restrictions. Are there in Switzerland any discussions, measures to improve this tourism status, including allowing free travel from all countries? It's just my opinion that allowing that, and of course with the same health protection measures imposed to Switzerland citizens, a much faster recovery can be accomplished. Yes, it's true. The tourism in Switzerland has been hit quite hard, but actually it is the tourist industry in Switzerland is not that big of a branch of the economy actually. I mean, banking is quite big, trading is very big. There is a bunch of industries like pharma that are a big contributor to the economy. So tourism is not as big of a, let's say, element of the economy as in other countries, perhaps like in Italy, but it's still a very important one. And your question is really valid. What Switzerland is doing right now is that it's really encouraging people within Switzerland to travel much more, but during the summer, a lot of tourist attractions, a lot of resorts, museums, and kind of all kinds of attractions had really discounted prices to push inbound travel and to stimulate the tourism, let's say, in this way. I hope this answers your questions. Let's move on to the next one. Hi, I'm originally from India, currently studying Bachelor of Computer Engineering in Warsaw. Yay, my home country. I'm planning to study Master from Swiss University. After graduation in Switzerland, we get 6 months to look for a job. Do you think this is enough time? How competitive is the market there? Will I be able to save money as well? Computer engineering, that's a good question. It's a good question, but it's also a very difficult one to answer. Your search for a job is a very individual kind of thing, depends on, except for your degree, do you have internships, did you already have some other jobs? When looking for a job in Switzerland, I think the Swiss are paying a lot of attention to whether or not you have previous experiences in Switzerland, and they value this very much. So finding a first job in Switzerland is a little bit tricky. Nonetheless, I know people who did this, multiple, so it is definitely doable. On the other hand, computer engineering, it's a great field and there is a lot of demand. So I'm not able to say yes or no if 6 months is enough. Generally, the job search in Switzerland takes a little bit of time, but it should be doable. Most people I know find a job within, let's say, 3-4 to 6-8 months, depending on the field, depending on the languages they speak, and depending on their background. But computer engineering, there is quite a lot of demand for this. Let's say you're willing to start from a low-paid internship. This will be a great way to, let's say, put your foot in the door and start on the local market. I wish you the best of luck with this. I hope I answer your question. And let's move on to the next one. Is it possible for someone to stay in France and work in Geneva? I would also like to ask, for the first few months, is it a good idea of staying in an Airbnb? Is this a good solution? Yes, it is possible to live in France and work in Geneva. A lot of people do this. Instead of having, let's say, a standard B permit, you will have a frontalier permit. You have to figure out the insurance situation, because I'm not sure how this works, but there's a lot of resources on this. But in short, yes, a lot of people do this. As for the Airbnb, if that's a good solution, that's gonna be really expensive for you. If you're gonna do the Airbnb in Geneva, that's gonna be really expensive. I think 2.2 to 3,000 per month. So try to find an apartment as soon as you can, because that's gonna drive the costs way down. If you have an Airbnb, I'm also not sure about the address, and you need a permanent address to open a bank account. So I think it's generally possible, but it's not gonna make your paperwork any easier. So generally, I would suggest either find long-term apartments, which they have. Let's say it's a long-term kind of hotel. So this gives a little bit more stability than an Airbnb. A lot of people do this when first moving, or just start your apartment search as soon as possible and jump right on that bandwagon. Living in France will save you a lot of money. If you live in Annemasse, it's much cheaper, but as I said, there's a little bit of tax and health insurance considerations that you have to research on your own. I'm not an expert on this one. I hope this is a sufficient good answer. Let's jump into the next one. Hi Miko, hope you and your family are doing well. Thank you very much. I'm looking to move to Switzerland in 2021 with my girlfriend, and I have a question for you. Let's say I have a signed contract with a company in Geneva when I eventually move. How much money do you believe we will need to get by on our first months for expenses such as housing, food, electricity for two? Thank you. That's a really good question, and that was actually my nightmare when I was moving here. I signed my contract, and it really was a big nightmare for me. How much do I need to get by? Do I have enough for moving? So that's why actually one of the first videos, I'm going to link them right here, that I did for this channel was exactly about this. So first of all, please have a look there. The numbers that I got there is around 6.5 to 11,000. Why? Well, this is a very individual thing. Are you moving alone or with your girlfriend, you mentioned? Do you have kids? How big do you want the apartment to be? So all these things really depend on your personal situation. As I said, what I calculated in this video that I made some time ago was around 6.5 to 11,000. I'm not gonna go for all the expenses right now because you can see the video, but the most considerable cost that you have to take into consideration is, let's say you're moving in on the 1st of January 2021, so you basically have to pay your first month rent, 3 months rent guarantee, and health insurance for you and your partner. So let's say the apartment will be roughly 2,000, which is an average, a little bit on the low side maybe if there's two of you. But just because of this, you will have to put 8,000, so 1 month for the rent and 3 months for the guarantee, so 8,000 francs on the table, plus insurance, let's say 250 or 300 per head. So these will be the biggest costs. Compared to this, the food and all other expenses are negligible. Yeah, electricity is like 60 francs per 2 months, so that's actually the really cheap thing in Switzerland. So this can potentially be very expensive, but, and I talk about it in this video again, once again, check it out. So let's say the biggest contributor to the cost is the guarantee for the apartment that you have to pay in. And to mitigate that, there are companies that will be your guarantor, so we'll put this money forward for you. That's possible. In this video, there is going to be a link to the companies that do that, and basically the rule is that they put the money out for you as your guarantor, and you pay yearly a fee, and on their website you can estimate how big the fee is going to be, but roughly ballpark something like 500, and this you will pay to them every year as, let's say, the interest for them being your guarantor for the 6,000. So this is actually the biggest contributor to the cost, let's say 6 or 7,500 francs just for the guarantee, and that's money that's kind of frozen. If you're moving, have a look on all the other videos on just this channel. I hope they're gonna be useful to you. I hope I answered your questions sufficiently. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to post more of them in the comments. As for the rest of you, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope those answers were beneficial to you as well. I hope you will get some value out of them. If you have some questions, if you're new to this channel, or if you have some follow-up questions, please do not hesitate to put them in the comments. I will answer them in the next video of this series of Q&A questions. They will be all in one playlist. For now, thank you for watching, thank you for your time. Please subscribe, click the thumbs up if you find this video useful. This will help other people that find this content useful find me. The YouTube algorithm really likes that, so I would really appreciate that. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Ciao.